And here to discuss what could be the deciding factors in the race for the White House, Dr. Caroline Helman, a professor at Occidental College. Thanks for joining us. And Professor, how much do you think the racist jokes made by the comedian at the Trump rally yesterday in New York could actually hurt him with Latino voters?
Ooh, hard to say, but this is not a win for the Trump campaign, mostly because we're not talking about what Trump said at that rally. This was the whole rally was the most vulgar racist rally we have seen. And I've seen plenty of Trump rallies, been to them in person, obviously watched them for a number of years. But what we saw at Madison Square Garden just went a step beyond. So the misogyny too, right? Talking about Kamala Harris, referring to her as having pimps, which suggests she's a prostitute, talking about her as low IQ. And of course, the comment about Puerto Rico, I think they are worried. His campaign is worried about the impact because they have walked it back and a number of prominent Republicans have criticized it. I think what they're probably most worried about are the 600,000 Latin voters in the state of Pennsylvania. Who knows how many have already cast a ballot, but half of them are Puerto Rican. So Kamala Harris, of course, already made ads and is just blasting those ads in Pennsylvania right now, trying to get Latin voters to vote for her instead of Donald Trump.
So have we gotten to the point where it's less about changing voters' minds and more about making sure they actually vote?
Well, it absolutely is. In fact, if I'm looking at Trump's campaign and why it is he would give the green light to be so vulgar and racist and xenophobic for all of the speakers, not just the one comedian at that event, including himself, I would say it's probably because they're doing a last minute push because he has a lot of low propensity voters, right? So there's a 40-point education gap between Harris voters now and Trump voters. And what we know about lower levels of education is that these voters do not turn out to vote in the same reliable way as folks with a college degree. So Donald Trump is trying to do this last minute big push to really motivate his voters. And we know what motivates them. This is a man who was elected the titular head of the birther movement after 8 years of a Black president. He's not shy about it. We know that racial resentment is one of the driving factors, which is why he's made immigration such a big issue in this election. So he's obviously trying to get that higher turnout, low propensity voters. I think this backfired on him, but that is the name of the game. It is who is going to turn out on election day in these key swing states.
And as both Harris and Trump are on the campaign trail, we hear a lot about October surprises that can tilt an election in one direction or another. Is there anything you think could happen between now and election day that would substantially change this race?
Well, the October surprises, name that for a reason. I would say that Donald Trump accidentally just gave Harris an October surprise. I think that John Kelly's remarks about Trump being a fascist will be woven into what might deliver for Harris. It's hard to say, but she's delivering this speech on Donald Trump being a threat to democracy on the ellipse, which is where his words in 2021 inspired a violent insurrection. So it is hard to say whether or not that will shift much of anything. But as you pointed out, Ryan, it really is about turnout. It's about the ground game. And all roads to the White House run through Pennsylvania, those 19 electoral college votes. So that is where the bulk of the money is being spent on media right now.
And as you talk about turnout, is there truly any undecided voters at this point?
I was scouring polls this morning. It went from 6% of voters undecided last week to 2% this week. But as you know, 2% could decide this election. But the issue with undecided voters is that they're less motivated to turn out. And so it really still comes back to a turnout game. Who is going to be motivated in those final hours to make sure that they cast their ballot?
Okay, 8 days until Election Day. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Caroline Helman from Occidental College. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ryan.